Hello everybody, welcome into the Invest Answers weekly Q&A where I answer all your questions. And a lot of people ask, how do I get my questions answered? So I get literally hundreds every week, but I choose the questions that are most thought-provoking. And especially if they have to do with numbers, then I really like them. So the first question of the day is from Alan Lee. He said, what would you choose if you could only have 1 Bitcoin or 32 Ethereum? What would you choose? Well, there's a couple of ways to answer that. First of all, I'd have to step back and look at the upside over the next 10 years. So many now believe that 1 Bitcoin could easily be worth $1 million in 10 years. And with the way the currency is debasing, as I always say, that's present value of about $540,000. So I believe that's totally achievable. So 1 Bitcoin, $1 million. Now, if you look at Ethereum, 32 Ethereum, the future value of that, I reckon in 10 years will be somewhere between $20,000 and $40,000. That will take you between about $650,000 to about $1.28 million. The average of that is $960. So the expected value of Ethereum, of 32 Ethereum, could be about $960,000 or about a 10x from where we are today. Now, the big question is, what is the cost today? So today, right now, at the time of doing this, Bitcoin's at about 57,000 and Ethereum is $24 away from 3,000. So let's call it 3,000 for giggles. Now, the cost to buy 32 Ethereum is $96,000. The cost to buy 1 Bitcoin is only 57,000. So basically, using that, if you invested today, the yields on your return, make sure I get this right again, is a lot of numbers. You would get about 1,685% back on your Bitcoin and about 900% back in your Ethereum. So basically, the returns on the Bitcoin investment would be better in 10 years. But that is if you are buying both today. If you had both today, it's a different situation. So I really like the question, taking it one step further. So we've gone to the first part of the 10-year future value. Then we did the second part, the investing today against the 10-year future value. And the third part is, if I look back at my investments in 2020 compared to today, my Ethereum has done a lot better than my Bitcoin. So there's that too. As I always say, if Bitcoin goes up 500%, Ethereum typically goes up 700%. And we've seen a monstrous run over the last week or two. So big congratulations to all the Ethereum hodlers out there. Okay, second question, and thank you, Alan Lee, for that first question. It was great. Second question. Plan B recently tweeted, beautiful stop loss hunting again. Now that all leverage longs are liquidated, we finally have room to break 60,000. So the question is from PMcD, I think it was. Why would the liquidation of leverage long positions be beneficial for Bitcoin price to appreciate? So, excellent question. I can't get inside the head of Plan B. However, it's very clear what he's looking for is to pull the weak paper, spinach hands, whatever you call them, out and bring in stronger hands like institutions and treasuries that will be buying Bitcoin, take up the supply, take it off the exchanges, thereby reducing the volatility. He obviously has a little bit of disdain for some of the margins long investors who got very badly burnt over the last 2 weeks. So I think that's the theory. And basically, once all these speculators are gone and the long-term hodlers are in place, gobbling up all of that supply, the future is bright for Bitcoin. So I think that is where he is coming from. Again, can't get inside his head, but that's the logical explanation in my opinion. So let's go to the third question real quick. The third question is 41 South, 146 East. Oh, cool name. Some argue BNB, i.e. the Binance blockchain, will be the next Ethereum. What do you think? So this is an interesting one. So BNB is Binance. I have a little bit of Binance in full disclosure, but I have a lot more Ethereum. And the Binance blockchain is said to perform better and faster. And a lot of people, it could be the new backbone of the financial system. Now, the Binance Smart Chain is doing very well, but ETH still has a number of advantages. They have the network effect, the largest number of users. They have the first mover advantage. They got a lot of partnerships tied up. And the ETH 2.0 London launch, planned for July, is said to really help things like scalability and gas fees, which have been the bane of Ethereum's existence over the last couple of months, especially. And that's given Binance a chance to take some market share away with things like PancakeSwap and others. So CZ, in addition, has been pushing very hard. He always says, if you want to have more users on your DApp, your decentralized application, come over to our fold type of thing. And it has been growing. It has been growing very well. And that's why I've got a little bit of Binance Chain. However, net, I think because the future of these chains around DeFi protocols, interoperability will be very, very important and very key. And I think anybody building a chain right now has to be very interoperable. And I think the market's going to be so big, there's going to be room for a number of players. And the future will be determined by cost and speed as we go forward. And my bet is on Ethereum 2.0. So great question. Thank you so much for that. So the third question is from Crypto Footsteps. And that question is, what are the best tools to help you make and track your portfolio? What tools do you use to track all your trades so that you know what are your gains and losses? Thank you in advance. Keep up the great work. Thank you for the question. So Crypto Footsteps, one of the things I'm going to be doing on Patreon is next week I will launch a model and show you exactly how I track everything, because I have things happening on so many different exchanges, about 7 different exchanges. It's hard to keep track, not only of the trades, but also the positions and the alerts. So I do have a spreadsheet that does all of that. I also use it to take into account exactly what my holdings look like, because if you look at things like the Ethereum Grayscale Trust, which I have in a retirement account, you need to understand the exact amount of Ethereum each share holds. Same thing for GBTC, same thing for Bitwise, and a whole host of other things. And if anybody was to hold an ETF, it would be important to know that too, to break them down into its component parts. So net, I use a spreadsheet to do it all. And I'll share that with the Patreon group as well next week. So thank you for the question. Oh, one other thing regarding that too, it's important as well. I don't like the idea of sharing things like portfolios that people have with common systems that are out there. I think that could be risky for people to know. So it's better to have things in a more secure platform. So the next question is from Rob Igglesden. The Cathie Wood Ark Genomics Fund has me fascinated. There isn't a stock in the fund that I recognize. I want to diversify just from leading fintech and crypto, and this may be it. Researching the whole sector is too much, hence being attracted to the ARK fund, the ARK Genomic Fund particularly. Any thoughts or feelings on this interesting sector? Thank you as always. Thank you, Rob, for the question. So again, I don't like ETFs per se or mutual funds, but I have huge respect for ARK and what they do. And this ARK Genomic Fund is quite spectacular. Now, in terms of the holdings it has some names that you probably don't recognize the companies, but you would recognize the products that they have. So for example, Roche and Gilead have a product called Theraflu, which is labeled different ways in different countries as a kind of a cold medicine. And the list goes on and on. Novartis, they make generics. So you know the products that these companies make. Now, what I do instead of buying a fund, an ETF fund that has 60 holdings, what I do is I surgically, excuse the pun, try pull out the winners in that space. So for example, in the genomic space, I am absolutely fascinated by gene editing, diagnostics, molecular diagnostics, for example, Invitae, the work that Illumina do and the machines that they make. And of course, the recent trade was Teladoc. That is the biggest holding actually that ARKG have. And I just put my toe in the water there last week, and many on Patreon saw exactly what we did. So we'll see where this all goes. I think it is very good to have a little bit of sector diversification. It's not good to have everything in a crypto basket or everything in the Tesla basket, but to mix it up. And I like the fact that the biotech area is uncorrelated, and I know the conversion of all of the different areas of big data and AI and diagnostics and gene editing is coming together at the same time, and it's going to bring about tremendous advances in medicine. It may not hit in the year 2021, but I think 2022 and 2023 will be very bright. So definitely a good idea to get a piece of that. Thank you for the question, Rob. Really good. So next question is from Lychee. Hey James, I'm a huge fan. Thank you for doing this. My question is, how do you choose between selling covered calls, selling put options, or buying leap call options? These three all seem to be good option strategies, but I'd love to hear your strategy on both. So excellent question. I do different things for different situations. Start with covered calls. So I use covered calls to hedge risk and take money off the table. As you may or may not know, I have the Google $1,000 call options that I picked up during the C-19 pandemic. And I just opened up my short side of that position last week when Google spiked. And I sold, I think it was the $2,500 calls for way more than I paid for the original call option. So basically I took all my money off the table and more, and I have a hedge that takes me up to over $2,850. So I don't have to be worried about Google until it goes above that level. Now if it dips down to 2,300, 2,200, I'll buy those calls back and wait for another bounce to sell them again. So that's how I use covered calls per se. The second thing is buying leaps. I typically buy leaps on things that are beaten down real low, but they've got a very good future, 1.5 years out plus time frame. A good example would be the Tesla leaps that I purchased 2 years ago, or the Google leaps last year, the Square leaps last year as well, all of which are performing incredibly well. In fact, the Square leaps are up over 1,550%. So they can be very, very powerful. Now, and then selling puts. This is the final one. I sell puts on things when the calls are extremely expensive and it's a stock that I want to own and it's also been beaten up. So if you look at the covered call strategy with Google and the put selling strategy, they're complete opposites of each other. But again, typically that's how I do it. Now I have an upcoming video this week as well talking about more options plays and analyze a whole bunch of different trades for people to show the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like last time, I've had a lot of requests for that video again, so stay tuned for that. Appreciate the question. And again, options are very, very dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. So please be very, very, very careful. Paper trade first. Have 9 out of 10 winning trades on a paper trade method before you start playing with real money. Because if you don't know what you're doing, you will lose, and they're extremely dangerous. Thank you, Lychee, for the question. And the final question, there's 2 questions. One came in from Anon. It said, do you meditate? And it's such a fun question. It's so easy. It's like, no, I don't. And I'm really bad at relaxing. And I wish I could do things like yoga and meditation, but I'm far too highly strung for that, unfortunately. So the next fun question is from AtomicBeal. AtomicBeal wants to know my top 3 albums. So James, fellow Radiohead fan, I wouldn't expect you to waste time to answer, but I am wasting time to answer this, but I'm curious. Your top 3 albums followed by your top 3 songs. So when I look at top 3 albums, I analyze which albums have I listened to most in my life, not what I listened to lately. So that's why I'm answering it this way. So the number 1 album that I've listened to most would probably be Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit. Again, I'm dating myself, but it was a brilliant album that came out when I was living in Switzerland. Second album that I probably listened to the most of is U2 Boy. Very rugged and raw, U2's first album, but I think it's the best and my favorite. And the third one is Lateralis by Tool. And that's the one I probably listened to most recently. I love Tool, big Tool fan. Now, in terms of my 3 favorite songs, which are a little bit different, and this will throw you guys for a loop. Top song is Lateralis by Tool. Second favorite song is called A Forest by The Cure. And it shows you, back during my middle school, the high school days, I listened to a lot of The Cure, believe it or not. And my third favorite song, and this is going to throw everybody, is Johnny Cash, God's Gonna Cut You Down. So very eclectic mix there, everything in between, but they are probably the songs I've listened to most in my life. Top 3 albums, top 3 songs. So as usual, thank you all for the brilliant questions. Please be careful out there, be safe. Markets are fun. You just got to be in the right place at the right time, and timing and patience are everything. So look forward to seeing you every day. Watch for the scammers. If you like this, hit the like, subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Thanks, and a big thank you to everybody in Patreon for these questions. Bye.